Yeah, it's been a tough year for everyone, and when these things happen, it's not good for the overall ecosystem, be it SEX or DEX, doesn't matter, it's not good for anyone. Now, you mentioned FTX. What we saw after the FTX debacle was a huge increase in volume. I remember the day after the FTX collapse, we had roughly 2 billion in volume in 24 hours, and then we started having roughly 1 billion per day for the entire weeks after this. We were coming from roughly 300-400 million per day before, and then we started monitoring this trend, and what we're realizing is out of the overall market volume, there is a small but constant shift from centralized exchanges to decentralized exchanges, mainly to many protocols like, of course, Paraswap, Uniswap, aggregator like 1inch, and this is about 1 to 2% more every quarter that we've been monitoring, and we think this is here to stay. That's a function mainly of two things, in our opinion. Number one, consumers being burned by FTX and others, therefore losing coins that they thought they had, but they didn't really have. And therefore self-custody is leading to a move to DEXs. And also an overall experience which is getting better and better from a UX standpoint as well. More people prefer to use DEXs, it's quicker, it's safer to a large extent, and that also explains the overall trend and shift which we have been seeing over the last few months since Q4 of last year. If we are solving for current users, we are not gonna solve for future users. And the issue is, in the S-curve, the early adopters of DeFi and crypto are way more advanced, as you were saying before, than my mom, which, by the way, if she calls me for 80K Bitcoin, I will take the call anyway. But if we keep improving what is good for existing users, we will not onboard new users. And we normally try to understand what are the barriers for users, one of which is paying gas. And it looks silly to us, but many friends are like, hey, I need to swap 1inch for something else. It didn't work. It doesn't work. Like, why? Tell me more. If you don't have gas, it doesn't work. So there was no Ethereum, there was no gas to be paid. So we launched gasless, which is a way to onboard more users and give a different experience. And now we started at 5% of the volume, and now 1/3 of the volume in 1inch is gasless. So we are trying to listen, but the difficulty again is, if we listen too much to our core users, we are gonna design something like a super sophisticated Porsche, again, to give to my mom, and she just wants a Fiat, right? So the balance is very difficult to strike sometimes. I think one of the catalysts won't be what we find the most exciting as a catalyst, but it will be regulation in a sense. And I know it's a very contentious point, but in reality, when we say we want institutions on board, then we need to have regulations on board. We can't have one without the other. So there might be other fancier and more sexy catalysts for adoption. But I remember when in 2017 I was using BitMEX or Kraken with no passport, and at a certain point they were like, hey, do you want to keep using us? Then you have X months to give us your passport, or you're welcome to go. So maybe at a certain point this will happen, either because someone is forcing this, or because on a voluntary basis this might be a way to proceed. And if and when this happens, then regulations will, the institutions will come, and banks. We speak to many banks today, they would love to be part of DeFi, get the yield, participate. They have a lot of clients requests, but they just can't. So we are building a permission version for this reason. And again, this might not be the most exciting reason for a DeFi growth in the future, but it's gonna be one of those. And when these institutions come, they bring more innovation with them. For example, JP Morgan is already tokenizing real assets, and they're putting the assets in liquidity pools. But in order to do it, they will want to do KYC and ML. So this goes a bit one with the other. It's difficult to choose one if we are not willing to then lean forward towards regulation a bit, in a sense. Yeah. hope is going to happen, which is a ZK-based KYC, which might be a compromise between the need to still prove who you are and the human need not to be known by everyone at the same time. So like that ZK-based system, not sure which one will win, but that might be the solution to this. Save cash. I mean, I'm coming from a traditional finance background. I spent like 2 decades in Procter & Gamble as CFO, and the only golden rule we had is cash is king. Nothing else matters. So we see many amazing companies building things, but then they run out of cash because they did an amazing round day or pre-seed in a bull market, then you spend it in sushi and boats, and then you run out of money because you think the bull market is forever. So I would say number one is save cash. Think like you have 3 years of no revenue, are you able to survive? We've seen many of those who didn't think in a 3 years no revenue mindset. And the second is build things that people want. We see every day amazing application for grants or money, and they are solutions to something which we don't see as a problem. So think problem first, what do people really want, and then spend money accordingly, building something which is fixing a real issue, be it safety, speed, UX, whatever, but find a problem for your solution before you spend the money.